Well, good morning, friends, family, neighbors. So good to see you today. And if you don't identify as any of those three, give it time, because I welcome you to join Mr. Rodney's neighborhood. I was thinking this morning about something that I was thinking about a couple of years ago. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was just having the thought of, remember when you were on fire, Rodney, and you used to memorize scripture? Like, we had contests to see who could memorize the most verses. It was a badge of honor to, as soon as the pastor quoted a verse, to be able to say where it was at, or if he said the Bible verse, you could start quoting it for him. And then I think a number of things have happened. One is, there's been so many translations that have been given to us. But not only have they been given to us, we have gotten away from, and I'm at a stoplight so I could do this, we have gotten away from our paper Bibles. See, it's upside down. We've gotten away from our paper Bibles, and we do everything on these devices like I'm recording on right now. And so we have the Bible app, and I thank God for the Bible app. I love the Bible app. I use the Bible app every single day because it's so much easier when I'm preparing for a message, when I'm studying, when I'm doing homework, to be able to just flip to a whole litany of translations without having to go on my bookshelf and pull out this big pile of books that I probably won't put up when I'm done with anyways, and then the house looks a little messy or whatever. So I thank God for the Bible app. But I do think we have lost the tenacity and the unction to really dive into one translation and memorize verses. And so a couple of years ago, I was thinking, maybe during 21 Days of Prayer, Rodney, remember when you used to memorize Bible verses? Remember, like, that was your goal, was to not have a weekly verse. You memorize verses. And you had a Bible promise book you kept with you and took everywhere you went, and you were always reading it and just learning key verses in the Bible to stand on and to be able to preach and to share and encourage. And back in the day, I probably used to beat people up with the verses a little bit too, and that's not nice. But that being said, I started thinking after that, what Bible verses really impacted me when I first started reading the Bible and when I first started memorizing verses. And one that came to mind was Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. And most of you know Proverbs 3. Most of you can quote it forwards and backwards if you've been in the church any amount of time. And then you go on to verse 9 and 10. It talks about, how we should give and honoring the Lord with our increase. But Proverbs 3, 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And I thought, man, that's a good verse, and I still know it, but what made it great? And I think probably it was great because people taught you to memorize it. It's a memorizable verse, like a lot of Proverbs are. Proverbs are, they're just wise sayings, and they have wordplay to them so that they were easy to remember. But Proverbs 3, for me, I said, you know what? I need to not just want to memorize it or start rememorizing verses. I need to add this to my prayer life. And so I started on a daily basis saying, God, I'm acknowledging you in everything today. I'm acknowledging you in the meetings I have at work. I'm acknowledging you in the conversations I'm going to have. I acknowledge you in my drive home. I acknowledge you in my interactions with my family. I just acknowledge you in all my ways, and I need you. I need you to direct my paths. And what is interesting is we've been talking about purpose and calling and the journey. And when I think about that word path, I've done a little bit of walking and hiking in my life. I'm no expert. I'm no Bear Grylls. But I like to go on nature walks sometimes for prayer time, just to get out, clear my head. And I've never seen a path that was straight for very long. And so the writer of Proverbs, he says that God will direct your paths. And your path. But what I think is interesting is that most of our paths are not straight lines. And so again, going back to this idea of this one great destination that we're supposed to get to, that may be the case. But if you go on a new path you've never walked before, and let's just say you're going to do that, a mountain walk, and you say, I know I'm going to get from the foothills of California, and eventually I want to end up on the other side of the Sierra Nevadas. If you've never done the walk before, you're going to take a lot of different paths. But the truth of the matter is, you really don't know what you're going to see until you get there. Now, you might can Google some things, but really back in the day especially, you would say, hey, we're going to do this hike, we're going to do this trip, but you don't know what's on the other end until you get there. So what do? You take the path as it comes to you. And I want us to remember that we don't need to be so focused on the big picture that we don't pay attention to what's on the path in front of us. Because I've been on some paths, and I've seen some fallen trees, I've seen some snakes, I've seen some rodents, and occasionally, if you are not paying attention, there are just simple roots in the ground that stick up a little bit and can trip you up, or you could step on a sharp rock that just kind of hurts your foot for a few minutes. And we want to acknowledge God in all of our ways, because your path isn't always going to be straight. Something's going to happen in your day. Somebody's going to show up and say something you don't like. You're going to get some news that was unexpected. And sometimes those paths are rewarding, and they can be amazing, an unexpected blessing. You can go down one path and all of a sudden you realize you're alongside the water and just get a beautiful, breathtaking view and take that in. But about 3 weeks ago, I did some walking out in Timaquana area, and we went down this path, which was one way in and one way out. And we didn't know till after we got done. But one part of the path was covered in water, and we had to go through it. We had to try to navigate it without getting too muddy, without getting too wet, without falling through it. But that's what happens sometimes. And we didn't have the big picture until we were done, that path was actually a loop, and it was one way in and one way out. And so just want to challenge you to acknowledge God in all of your ways, and trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean into your own understanding. It means don't lean into what you think the final picture is. Lean into the ways you are currently in, the path you are currently on, the job you are currently working, the church you're currently attending, the ministry you are currently serving, the people you are currently doing life with. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. He's going to direct your paths. And guess what? I know somebody saying, what if I take the wrong path? Well, if you do it in faith, God's going to take care of you. One of my favorite quotes by C.S. Lewis says, when we want to walk with God, which that's a lot of paths, when we want to walk with God, He's pleased even if we stumble. And why is He pleased? Because we tried, because we stepped out, because we did something. And even if it wasn't the big picture He has for us, if we do it in faith, He's going to bless us, because those that come to God must believe that He is, and He's a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Sometimes we seek Him on the wrong path, but that's okay. Stay on the path, keep acknowledging Him, keep trusting Him. I love you, family. Have an amazing, amazing day.